Hey guys, Rominating Reaper here. So I've just got done watching Wolves on Apple TV Plus. This is of course the newest film from Jon Watts, who previously brought us the MCU Spider-Man trilogy starring Tom Holland, and this of course marks his first film as director off the back of the global box office mega smash of No Way Home back in 2021. God, that was nearly 3 years ago. COVID times weren't real, man, I tell you. And of course, this also marks the first on screen pairing of George Clooney and Brad Pitt in about 16 years. So, there's definitely plenty to be excited about with this buzzy little project. But does the film live up to the easy charm of its two prime movie star leading men? Let's find out. So, in the film, a district attorney named Margaret desperately calls upon the services of a professional fixer after a man drops dead in her hotel room. However, when the fixer she hires is about to actually get the job done, in walks another fixer hired by the hotel's manager, Pam, and soon the two men are reluctantly forced to work together to get the job done, which turns out to not be as simple as they initially thought upon the discovery of a bag full of drugs in the room, and things soon go from bad to worse when the dead guy turns out to not be dead, and soon the pair are drawn into something much larger than they had initially bargained for, involving a stolen shipment belonging to the Albanians. So it's worth noting that this very nearly got a wide cinema release. That was the original plan. Sony was going to put this out a full cinema run. But then this year, Apple had the back to back box office mega flops of Argyle back in February through Universal and Fly Me to the Moon in the summer. Another one from Sony. So they decided to scale back the release for this one and basically just by and large send it straight to the service. And I'm gonna be honest, as fun as it would have been in the cinema, yeah, this definitely feels like a streaming movie. That's not to say it's a bad movie by any means. In fact, as streaming originals go, this is probably one of the better ones. But yeah, this is the sort of movie that you can watch on your TV at home and, not really feel like you're missing anything. I mean, for one, plot wise, yeah, you don't exactly need to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out exactly how this is going to go. It's fairly predictable and does rely on fairly familiar fixer movie tropes. But as predictable as it is at least fairly entertaining to see this journey unfold. It keeps up a decent pace throughout. It's got a couple twists and turns in there for good measure, and there's a couple half decent action set pieces as well to ensure that, yeah, it is by and large an entertaining time overall. And it is carried along really nicely by the central pairing of George Clooney and Brad Pitt as these two professional fixers who, for the course of the film, remain entirely unnamed, although they do tease us right at the very end that they will eventually be on a name basis, but for now, their names are unknown. And, you know, as much as it relies on the whole we're not friends predictable dynamic, Clooney and Pitt, are a really charming pair. They're very likable, and their little bickering and bantering actually is very amusing. There are plenty of chuckles to be had from their very snappy dialogue. And, there's something very fun to be to witness in, these two incredibly, slick, methodical men sort of having their entire operating process be entirely thrown out of whack by having to work together on a job. So that's plenty fun. Of course, you've also got the kid, played by Austin Abrams, who is very likable and sort of in way too deep. And there's some fairly amusing bits involving his very rambling stories. And there's actually some charm to be had in the dynamic between Kid and these like two professional fixers, as the two guys actually come to really bond with him. And so that little dynamic does carry along through the film, ensuring that yes, you are by and large invested and entertained. Now, obviously, in terms of the film's visual aesthetic, this is definitely where you can tell it is a streaming movie. Like, there are definitely some nice shots in here. It's shot on location, and yeah, and some really nice shots showing the contrast of the snow with like bright lights of cars and building signs. It does by and large look good, but of course, sauceless is a criticism that has been leveled at Watts regarding his directing of the MCU's Spider-Man movies. And let's be real, if you are someone who believes that Jon Watts has no sauce as a director, yeah, I don't think this is going to do much to change your mind because, yes, there are shots that do have a certain level of energy to them and they are very slickly done, but there's not exactly much in the way of visionary flair. So, if you believe Jon Watts is sauceless, yeah, you're probably not going to have your thought process converted, unfortunately. But, it does at least somewhat look good. And it has a certain level of energy to it, especially in the action. There's some moments, such as a climactic shootout and a whole chase scene involving the kid, that are entertaining and do have a level of energy to them. And by the end, you're sort of won over, and you do sort of end it feeling good. And of course, right at the very end, they leave it open for a sequel, which is in development at Apple. And yeah, I will probably watch it when it comes out because I did have a good time with this overall. It's certainly nothing special, and it's certainly not as like gut-bustingly hilarious as it maybe could have been off the back of its sort of slick and sharply written banter between its two prime movie star leads. But I was overall entertained by this and did have a good time watching. And yeah, out of 10, Wolves gets a 6.5. So yeah, let me know down in the comments. Have you seen Wolves? What did you think of it? What's your take on the whole Jon Watts has no sauce discourse? Would you have liked to have seen this one at the cinema? And will you be watching the sequel when it comes out? Let me know all that down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're new, and don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload.